Hey, welcome to HFBC Youth. We are so glad that you're here. We wish that we could get together live, and that's coming soon, I'm sure. But until then, we can do this and we can still stay connected. So be sure to stay connected with your Sunday school class. Try to get together whenever they're getting together. I've got a couple announcements to make. The first one is be sure on Wednesday nights to tune in to Instagram Live at 7 o'clock, and it is Youth HFBC. So try to do that if you can. Also, as of now, camp is still going on, the fudge camp. You know how much I love fudge. So try to go to that if you can. There are still openings. We'll keep you posted on what's going on there. So we have tree news this week. Again, another video, another very educational video. And so here we go. It's time for tree news you can use. And remember, park rangers here, foresters here. I love you. My tree killing friends, you know how we've talked about how I kill trees, but you know my motto, killing bad trees to save good trees. Perfect example, we're in a tree plantation here where we have a bunch of chestnut oak, swamp chestnut oak that's been planted. That's the tree we're trying to manage for. And so here we have a Bradford pear that's out here. It's choking that tree out. So we're gonna kill it. And how we do it is we just hack, squirt some chemical, hack the other side, a little chemical, and that tree is dead forever. So that's an invasive tree, but we also have some native trees. This is a sycamore that has very little value. So I'll hack it. And so that's what we're doing to promote this. I love you. Man, that really makes me excited watching me kill all those trees, but they're bad trees. Don't forget, killing bad trees, saving good trees. That's what it's all about, baby. Okay, we're gonna do trivia again this week. We did it last week, we're doing it again. The good news is 5 questions, all 5 answers are in the lesson. So you'll want to be the first person to send in your answers to either Jacob or myself, and the first 5 people will win something, probably toast. Look at this. A delicious piece of toast. So how does that sound? Yummy. You can either eat it plain or you can put butter and some type of jelly or jam. Isn't that nice? Okay, trivia questions. Number 1. Here we go. How many children did Job have? Job had some children. How many? That's the question. What land did Job live in? That's question number 2. What land did he live in? Question number 3, how did Job's sheep die? You know, you hate it when a sheep dies and they die. How does that happen? Question number 4, finish Job's sentence, all right? Blessed be blank, 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 blank. Finish that. And finally, question number 5, did Job sin after he lost everything? So did he sin? Look, you got a 50-50 chance. A monkey could almost pick this. So, 50-50 chance. Those are the questions for this week. Get those sent in. Remember, if you win, you will receive toast. Delicious toast. See ya.
Hey, welcome to Sunday School Worship. We're at Claire's house right now. We're about to sing a couple of songs, and I want you to hear this. Hear this from Psalm 30 before we sing together. Psalm 30 verse 1 says, I will exalt you, Lord, because you have lifted me up and have not allowed my enemies to triumph over me. So we lift God up together because he has lifted us up. And then verse 4 and 5 says, sing to the Lord, you his faithful ones. He's talking to you. And praise his holy name, for his anger lasts only a moment, but his favor lasts a lifetime. We have a gracious God, and he has forgiven us. So please join us in singing. Don't just watch. Will you do that for us? Will you sing with us? If you're listening to this with your family, your mom and dad need to hear you sing. They need you to say these truths to them. And if you're listening with your kids need to hear you, mom and dad. So let's sing together. Sing, who am I?
Who am I that the highest king would welcome?
beginning a series today in the book of Job, and I want to read a verse from our lesson. It says in Job chapter 1, so Job is going to suffer a lot, and he's going to lose a lot, but look at his response, and we can learn a lot from him. It says that Job fell to the ground and worshipped God after losing everything, and he said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will leave this life. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." So we're going to sing a song called All I Have Is Christ. And in this song it says, when everything's gone, Christ is enough. So as you sing this as a family, please sing loud so your parents can hear, so your kids can hear, so we can hear through the phone. Even though this isn't live, let's sing.
I once was lost in darkest night, yet thought I knew the way. The sin that promised joy in life had led me to the grave. I had no hope that you would able to your will, and if you had not loved me first, I would refuse you still. But as I ran my hell-bound race, indifferent to the cost, you looked upon my helpless state and led me to the cross. And I beheld God's love displayed. You suffered in my place. You bore the wrath reserved for me. Now all I know is grace. Hallelujah. All I have is Christ. Hallelujah. Jesus is my life. Now, Lord, I would be yours alone and live so all might see the strength to follow your commands could never come from me. Oh, Father, use my ransom life in any way you choose, and let my song forever be my only boast is you. Hallelujah. All I have is Christ. Hallelujah. Jesus is my life. Hallelujah. All I have is Christ. Hallelujah. Jesus is my life.
Hey, good morning or evening. Grab a Bible and we'll be in Job this morning. Job is in the Old Testament, so if you have a Bible in your house, go grab that. Job is right before Psalm. So Psalm is kind of like right in the middle of the Bible, and then kind of go to the book right before that. We're starting a new series today called Loss and Faith. Loss and Faith. I'm so excited about this series. Lindsay Stratton did a great job designing our artwork for it, and I just think it just captures this idea of having loss, but also having faith even in the midst of loss. So I'm excited about this series. If you're watching this with other people in your room, maybe talk about this phrase. What does it mean to have a loss of faith? Have you heard that phrase before? Loss of faith, not loss and faith. What does it mean to have loss of faith? Over the last year, in our country and around our world, a lot of maybe famous Christians, people who were followers of Jesus have renounced their faith. They have walked away from God because of painful things that happen or because of some doubts. And we want to see how, as Christians, we can remain faithful, even in this seasons we go through of loss. So that's what this series is about. I love the song we got to sing a moment ago. Claire did a great job. All I have is Christ. That's such a good song, and it kind of captures this idea that even if everything else is gone, having Christ is enough. Even if my plans never happen and I'm miserable my whole life, the truth that God is with me is enough for me. So that's some of the things we'll talk about in this series. So today is week 1. We'll be in Job chapter 1. So if you have a Bible, turn there. We'll have a question each week that we're asking. So this week's question is how or why do bad things happen to good people? Let's start out today with a biography of who is Job. And I asked Jim to tell us about Job and who he is. Hey, Jimmers, could you tell us about Job?
So my job as a forester involves a lot of things, and one of them is running chainsaws. And so, I have this chainsaw that I'll run, and when I do, I've got to wear my...
Hey, Jimmers.
Yeah, what's up?
I think you misread my text message.
Yeah, let me look. Yeah. It says right here. Hey, Jimothy, can you tell us about Job?
No, Job. Like the guy in the Bible, Job. It's spelled the same, but like Job.
Yeah, give me just a minute, okay?
Like how long do you need?
Ready.
That was fast.
Okay, now let's talk about Job. So just to give a little background to this book of Job. So as you're looking at the Old Testament, you go through first the 5 books, the Pentateuch, the first 5 books are the law, and then the next set of 12 books are history. And so you go through history, and they're all kind of together. Ruth, it's kind of out there to the side a little bit. And then you get to Esther, right? And then that's the books of history. And then after that starts the book of poetry, right? So it's not really any more history from there on. And so it's kind of like a Star Wars story, Rogue One, how it told a story that was kind of part of the big story, but it wasn't in order necessarily. That's kind of like Job. Job goes back to 2000 BC area, about when Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, when they were going on. That's about when this is. And so that's where we're going to start. We're going to read, and so I'm going to read 1 through 3. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty. I love saying that. I say that all the time, don't I, Dina?
I have never heard you say that before in my life.
I say it all the time. Anyway, so let's go 1 through 3. See what happens. In the land of Uz, don't you wish you lived in the land of Uz? I love that. I would love to say, hey, I live in Uz. There lived a man whose name was Job. This man was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, and he owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen. Do y'all hear that? And 500 donkeys. Yes, donkeys. I think I have all those critters right here in my house. And had a large number of servants. He was the greatest man among all the people in the East. So here's the story. Here's this guy named Job that we've never heard of before. And we find out that he is a very rich man. He has a lot of animals. He has a lot of barns. I would hate to have to clean the stalls at his house. And so that's kind of the introduction. Now we're going to see, we all know kind of the story of Job, and we know he has some problems and things come up, but they're not his fault. That's what we're going to see. We will see that he was blameless in God's eye. He didn't sin, and so he didn't bring it on himself. And that's an issue with sin, is a lot of times we have problems that come about, and a lot of times it's because of our own sin, and we do it to ourselves. But in this case, that's not the deal with Job.
Great points, Jim.
Thanks, Jacob.
Hey, what are you eating?
Toast.
Looks pretty good. Yeah, I'd make some, but I'm out of bread.
I got you covered, homie. Looky here. Are you ready? Here it comes.
Hey, nice shot, Jim.
Thanks, man.
All right, so while that's cooking, let's look at the text in Job chapter 1, verse 6 through 12. The scene shifts from Job's life to what's going on in heaven. Verse 6, one day the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The sons of God here, this is the angels of God. Even though it says sons of God, that might be confusing to some of us. That's referring to the angels. Okay, this is just a way that they would do that in their language. And it says Satan also came with them. Satan's the sneaky one. He snuck in there with them. Satan is called Satan because that word means adversary or enemy. In verse 7, the Lord asks Satan, "Where have you come from?" "From roaming through the earth," Satan answered him, "and walking around on it." That's so true. Satan is walking around on the earth, roaming it, trying to tempt people, trying to destroy. He's the evil one. He is your adversary. Verse 8, then the Lord said to Satan, "Well, have you considered my servant Job? No one else on earth is like him, a man of perfect integrity, who fears God and turns away from evil." Verse 9, Satan answered the Lord, "Does Job fear God for nothing? Haven't you placed a hedge around him, his household, and everything he owns? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But if you stretch out your hand and strike everything he owns, he will surely curse you to your face." So Job is righteous, and God says, "Have you seen this guy?" And Satan says, "He only loves you because of the stuff you give him and because you're so good to him. But if you take away some of his things, he will curse you to your face." A couple things I want to point out in that passage is, one, Satan is on a leash. Satan cannot just do whatever he wants to. He can't just kill whoever he wants to or hurt anyone he wants to. God has Satan on a leash. Satan will be destroyed in the end. When we read that in Revelation, that's good news for us who are in Christ. Yet Satan wants to destroy. And any time that Satan has an opportunity, he will destroy, as we'll see in the verses to follow, how quickly he goes to destroy everything. Ooh. Well, toast is ready. Let's have a bite. Hot, 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 hot.
That toast is delicious. Okay, back to the text. Here we go. So here's the dealio. That's another one of those things that I love to say. Don't I, Dean? I say that all the time.
I have never heard you say that before in my life.
I say it all the time. God has allowed Job to go through testing here, okay? And so he also has allowed Satan to do whatever he wants with him, but he cannot physically harm Job. So that's where we're at. So let's see what happens next. So this is 13 through 15. One day when Job's sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, the messenger came to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby, and the Sabeans attacked and carried them off. They put the servant to the sword, and I am the only one who's escaped to tell you." So think about this. They're out and about, and all of a sudden, here comes these Sabeans. They come from the south, from Arabia, and they take the oxen and the donkeys. Now, when I think about donkeys, I think about Donkey. You remember Donkey in Shrek? You remember what a lovable, fun guy he was? Well, that's what I think about when I hear about donkeys. And so the donkeys get stolen, and so it makes me think, you know, what is it of yours that you would really hate for somebody to come and steal? It's just something to think about, you know? And so they came and they steal them. They kill the servants. So already today is being a bad day for Job.
That's right, Jim. And if you thought that was bad, Look what happens next in verse 16. He was still speaking, that messenger was still speaking when another messenger came and reported, God's fire fell from heaven. It burned the sheep and the servants and devoured them, and I alone have escaped to tell you. Fire from heaven, this was probably lightning from heaven, fell and devoured, destroyed the sheep and all of the servants. And this one guy comes. So Job is having a rough day already. He's lost his donkeys, his oxen, and now his sheep. This one guy comes and tells him this story. And the servants watching were killed. The fire falls. Man, what a bad day.
That was really a good sheep impersonation.
Really?
Not bad at all. If you think that was bad, take a look at what happens next in verse 17. Check this out. While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, the Chaldeans from the north formed 3 raiding parties and swept down on your camels and carried them off. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who's escaped to tell you. Now, you know it's bad. When you lose your oxen and your sheep and your donkeys, that's a bad day. But when you lose your camels, that's really bad because I love me a camel. As a matter of fact, I rode a camel today to work. Didn't I, Dina?
Jimmers, I'm pretty sure you took your truck to work this morning.
No, really, I did.
Look at the lips on that camel.
Best $5 I ever spent.
Look at verse 18. Verse 18 and 19. He was still speaking. So he said, you've lost your sheep, you've lost your oxen, you've lost your donkeys, you've lost now your camels. As that guy is still speaking, another messenger comes and reports, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. Suddenly, a powerful wind swept in from the desert and struck the 4 corners of the house. It collapsed on the young people so that they died. And I alone have escaped to tell you. So Job has lost everything. This is devastating. This wind comes, destroys the house. It was likely a tornado. We had a tornado here in Henderson a couple of weeks ago. Thankfully, it did not destroy houses, although it did knock down some trees. I know some of you guys were affected by that. But even in this storm, God is showing his power to protect. It didn't destroy everyone on earth, just this small area. When we had our tornado, it could have been a lot worse. And God's power is on display even in the midst of that. But Satan has taken the permission to hurt Job to the max. He has gone from 0 to 100 miles per hour as fast as possible, as painful as possible, to try to get Job to stop believing in God. And now Job's children have died. Imagine being Job that day as messenger after messenger comes and loss after loss. That's kind of how it has felt for us the last few weeks as we have lost thing after thing. Some of you seniors, it feels like this is just like you're losing everything. You're losing all of your last things that you were going to do as a senior, and these losses are real. Yet in the midst of it, God is with us. God is faithful. And so that's what I want to point us to, this loss and faith. So what's really important is what happens in the next couple of verses.
So all this happens in one day. He loses all this stuff. And you know, Satan is probably licking his chops. He's excited. He's going, this is all it takes, and Job is going to bend to my way, and he is going to denounce God. So let's see if that happens. I'm going to read now 20 through 22, and that'll finish up the chapter. At this, Job got up and tore his robe and shaved his head. Then he fell to the ground and worshiped and said, Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. In all this, Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing. So, I think the thing to point out here is, at the first of this book, we read that Job was a man of integrity, a man who tried not to sin, who lived by God's laws. He's a good guy. But you can say that about anybody, right? But until you know them, you really don't know exactly how they are. And so, but as we read, we see that with Job, especially when we read this in verse 21. Let me read it again. This is really important. After all that happened, he fell on the ground and he said this: the Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that kind of faith, that once all your possessions have been taken away and you are still praising God like Job was? He's really showing God's character. And that's what we want to try to do ourselves, is to show God's character in our life. Even when we're losing in a game, or if we lose our stuff or whatever, that we can still praise God and say, you are my God, and I want to be like you, and I want to serve you.
So let's wrap this up this way. You are going to experience loss in life, but loss of things does not mean a loss of faith. In fact, it can be the biggest time of growth whenever you have loss. You can have loss and faith. So I know that this is real, that our losses are real. You guys have lost a lot of things. I've lost stuff too. I had a trip with my son planned where we were going to hike up a mountain and stay in this cabin. We've lost that. We've lost a lot of other things. He's really bummed about that, you can tell. But we've all lost, but God is still God. God is still working for our good. So in Daniel chapter 4, King Nebuchadnezzar, he learns that God is God over all things. And there's a verse that it says that God's dominion and God's kingdom is from generation to generation. And that encouraged me this week, this idea that God is at work in our generation. That God doesn't just say, oh, whatever happens, I don't care. God is at work in your heart. God is at work in this generation and in the next one. Some things are happening right now that we won't ever know why, but maybe the next generation can see the why of it. And God is doing things in your heart that you're going to tell your children and your grandchildren in years to come of what God has been showing you, even in this really difficult time of life. That's good news. So as we close, I just want to say a couple of encouragements and challenges for you. The first one is keep your faith. Even when you lose things, you lose in life, you can keep your faith. The second thing I want to say is talk to someone. As we go through difficulty, the thing that we need to do is stay connected. You may need to just pick up your phone and call someone, FaceTime someone, and just talk and say, hey, this has been difficult, I'm angry, I'm upset, and just share. If that's me that you want to talk to, please do. Most of you guys have my number. You know how to get a hold of me through social media. We'd love to talk with you as Sunday school teachers as well. Talk to someone. Talk with your parents about some of these losses. Okay, don't forget to send in your answers to the trivia questions and win, and we'll see you next week. God bless you. Go in the peace of Christ.